Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I'm on the Internet Chess Club. I'm following right now International Master Providence. So let's see what takes shape in this one, and after the game I'm going to see what both players missed using Stockfish. So this is a quite passive setup on the black side. G6 is an interesting attempt at blunting that diagonal altogether. So white has a grip over E5. Black's not so quick to give that square up. Notice the delay with the d-pawn's advance. 1 or 2 steps. I'm expecting an eventual e4 idea by white to try to get an e5, some space advantage. And okay, well we have that right away. I wonder if the move d5 is available. d5 with push, knight e4, because white doesn't have as much coverage over that. Okay. Not going in that direction. Instead, black gives up the light square bishop, and now looks to put pressure on the d4 pawn, something that's very difficult to maintain, the pawn on d4. The knight was there to defend, and the queen is also, by recapturing on f3, no longer around to watch over the d4 square. So I guess black at that point was considering knight b4, and maybe that was even better, just to be assured that you either get that bishop back or drop into the c2 square. b2 is unprotected. Queen here, I don't know that you would really want to put your queen in a pin. I like the black position here. I like having this knight on this square. Certainly it needs support from pieces. I like this pressure on b2. But is this really going to be enough? Keep in mind, it is white who has this space advantage and still the bishop pair, though I'm not so sure how great the light square bishop is at the moment. There are moves like knight c5, hitting the bishop, and then, well, maybe black is considering which rook to play at it to c8. Is an e5 advance something to consider? Okay, knight c5 it is. Okay, so you could get that bishop back. White is then really well coordinated and still maintains that space advantage, so maybe it's not so important to try to hang on to the bishop pair at this point, and instead transition to a position where white still maintains the space advantage. So you give up the bishop pair, but you still have this d5 pawn around. Well, should you take on this square? Is it really necessary to take the bishop or throw a rook on the c8 square? Wonder if, for a second I was thinking maybe white at some point is threatening to take the knight and then play knight b5 with the fork, but black is there to recapture with check, so okay, black finally occupies that only open file. Just a pawn and a minor piece exchange for both sides so far. Okay, rook c1. Where's this queen gonna go? I imagine she has to find a new home very soon. And I'm not so sure where the next best home is for the queen. This doesn't seem so appealing being opposite the bishop. Queen a5? Okay, queen b6 it is. Queen a5. I become fearful of ideas of a3, b4 with the fork. Knight to e2? Not quite sure. No, knight e2 isn't really working, I don't think. Knight e2, maybe there's knight takes and then knight takes again. Getting at that b2 square. What's wrong with queen takes b2 right now? Oh, it's not even black's move. Okay, I was thinking too much on black's side right there. Okay, so the queen is hit and the pawn is defended with that move, knight a4. Alright, and now this knight is officially caught in a crossfire. Okay, he's out of it, out of the pin and still defending. I'm sure both players missed a lot already up until this point. Queen here seems like the perfect move. Queen c6, finally out of the way, until you see that move. Ouch, I was just thinking, oh, but white has to react to the bishop right here. What a counterpunch. That was a nice shot. Knight to e2. Oh, that wins the farm. Oh, that's a real nice shot. Bishop takes knight, queen takes bishop, and that's game over. Oh, a sudden end to this one. And if you don't take the knight, you're just dropping a full rook. Well, you're dropping everything right now. The evaluation must be going crazy. I imagine we're going to have resignation at this point. And we'll see how both players could have maybe improved upon their play. I know how I could have certainly improved upon my commentary by paying attention to whose move it was. So yeah, now we're playing up a full rook. That doesn't need to be taken just yet. You can grab here. So this is just this would still even be bad if white wasn't losing a rook. Okay, we finally had resignation. Let me unfollow. They're gonna go back over the game maybe. But yeah, even if what I was gonna say, let me bring it back up for a moment here. Go into the history, examine. Yeah, in this final position, what I was going to add is even if this rook was still around, even if it wasn't a rook advantage, look at the dark square weaknesses. Placing a bishop one day on e5, getting into h2, or bishop to d4, flushing the king out in some way. But let's take it back here and see how both players could have improved. Anything sticking out here, you'll see on the right-hand side. The evaluation, so nothing crazy in the early stages here. Pretty balanced. When does it start going maybe a little bit off? Bishop g4. Not bad. Still good, with the idea to break at these light squares, or the dark squares I should say. Still pretty even. I imagine around here. Yep. There's something here. Okay, it is suggesting knight to b4 with the idea to either take the bishop or maybe drop into c2. But I can't imagine that knight d4 is bad now. Okay, so nothing great so far. Typical maneuver. We see this in the Sicilian, which at least it's a black structure that's reminiscent to a Sicilian dragon without the c pawn, and we have these pawns here. So knight d7, the bishop's free to c. And then we have knight c5, bishop e3, knight c5, knight c3. Pretty even up into these 16 moves. I think the next handful of moves, though, we're going to see something. Maybe jump. Queen b6. What's recommended is bishop to b1. What was played? Knight a4 here. Yeah, now it's going to be downhill for white. Bishop b1 is being recommended. What's the trick with this? Suppose queen takes b2. Oh, you're just dropping the knight. Okay, so let's not do that. Bishop b2, it's, oh, look at that. There's a blind spot right there with my train of thought. Bishop b1, it's a retreating move, but at the same time, it's an aggressive move. All right, well, that's a strong move, isn't it? Now that the rook is here, you know what? I bet there was some thoughts on the white side, maybe at this moment right here. After the rook played here, I bet you white would really like to drop the bishop back, but didn't want to do so to block in the rook. But now that the rook is here, queen b6, there is time to not do anything about the b2 pawn. Just dropping back is indirectly defending because there's a stronger punch here. Okay, so bishop b1 would have been better. But we have a big shift here, probably the main shift of the game. White being about a half pawn advantage with bishop b1. Still having the space advantage, but instead knight a4, and now it's black who has about a pawn advantage. With knight takes a4, the move played in the game. Rook takes rook, rook takes rook, and then queen takes a4. Queen takes b2, and it's apparently even if white is playing queen to d7, hitting everything. Rook, pawn, pressure on the b7 pawn. And I guess best is rook to f8. That's interesting. So queen takes b2. Not the best move. Actually, what is best is knight to e2, with then king f2. And then as a follow-up, bishop d4. Wow. That's not the first move that would really be coming to mind for me. But I guess you would have to do that. King to f2, what else are you going to do? Pressure against the knight and the queen. Seems more natural. Grab a pawn, get out of the pin. It's blitz. Gotta make him move fast. Queen takes b2, and after rook to b1. Queen c3. I got nervous here for a second thinking that I miscalculated with queen c3. because of rook c1, but that drops everything. This is just a giant hammer on the position, knight to e2, and that's it. See the evaluation going crazy. After rook to c1, knight to e2, and that's it. Bishop takes, queen takes, and again, dropping a full rook. It's at that point that white resigned. So, interesting game out of from these two players, international master versus about a 2150. So, that's all for this video. As always, I hope you got something out of it. Take care. Bye. Alright, so we're going to have this tension here. White doesn't want to take and allow black to build a center and control d5. That'll rule out any knight d5 ideas. So, providing a hook to this knight